Aloha, all you money makers. This is Indar Lang, and I'm super excited to talk to you guys today and have my beautiful guest here from Miss
Tupola.
Tupola.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm horrible at English.
That's okay.
I can't speak pidgin. But super excited. She lives in Waianae. She's our councilwoman
Yeah.
here. And she's just been a big advocate for us. And we did a IG Live the other day. And it was super exciting to talk to her because she's like on the same page as us as investors and real estate people and people trying to get this permitting issues done. If I told you guys that subscribe button is the only thing that's separating you from financial freedom, because knowledge is power. I'm going to give you all the knowledge so you can succeed in life. Let's get into it. We're super excited and let's go. So tell me a little bit about you and, the backstory of where you're from and born and raised. And
Okay. Well, I was born in Kuku, raised in Hawaii Kai, went to Kamehameha schools.
What year did you graduate?
I graduated in 98.
98.
Yep.
Okay.
So we're celebrating our 25th this year.
Yeah.
So I went to college at BYU in Utah. I did a mission for my church in Venezuela. I taught in LA as well as Arizona and Utah. My husband did a little free agent deal in the NFL, and then we came home in 2008. And at that time, we had 2 children, and it was...
How old are they?
my kids are 14 and 15
they're
right
big.
now.
Okay.
Yeah. But at the time, we were young, not newlyweds, but just young parents. And I remember in 2008, my mom and dad were like, you should buy a house. And I was like, there's no way. So my husband had just gotten into the police department. I was just teaching piano on the side. I'm a music teacher.
Oh, really?
Yes,
I'm
I'm a
trying to get
voice.
my son to go because I think piano is supposed to make you really smart as an adult. I hear.
So I teach voice and choir. I have a doctorate in music from UH. And so at the time, my dad was like, you should look around, check out the market. So in 2010, we bought our home in Waianae, and we bought it on a short sale. Super grateful. We were both 30 years old, and with our 2 young kids, we thought that it would be great to have like a solid place for them to live, place that we could invest in, eventually have equity in. And so fast forward to today, I was a professor at UH. I decided to run for office in 2014, served in the state house for 4 years, ran for governor in 2018, got all the way to the end.
Yes.
I lost to Governor Ige, 33%. It didn't discourage me. My point was to really get more people around my age and this younger generation to step up and become leaders. And then in 2020, I ran for a city council, so I've been serving for the past 3 years.
Mm-hmm. How do you like that change in life from being, now you're a government servant, serving other people, compared to working on just a normal job before? It's a whole, I mean, you were helping others doing teaching and so forth. So
Nothing like what I'm doing now, but yeah. I would say 2 things. One is that, like, in the music world, it's just like rainbows and unicorns, everyone's like, let's be friends.
Yes.
And then you get into politics and it's like, dun dun dun. Not
so
everybody
true.
is nice.
Yeah.
Which kind of shocked me because I was like, oh, there's not nice people.
Yeah.
And then I think the second thing was just the whole being able to withstand public criticism. It was something that my husband was used to as, someone who serves. But I wasn't used to that because it was like, some of the things that I went through reached national levels where, you might be able to withstand 1 or 2 people saying, hey, you should do this, hey, you should do
when you
that.
ran for governor, you were all over the national news. And
Yeah,
stuff.
I was.
Yeah.
And it was tough because it's like, can you handle 100? Sure. 1,000? Sure. Tens of thousands? Hundreds of thousands. Because I ended with 131,000 votes, right? So it's like you're talking with so many people that you have to be so sure of who you are that nothing anyone says can shake you or waver you.
Pick you apart
Yes, yeah.
It's so weird that I feel like our political is just getting more divided as Democratic, Republican, all this the division when we're just all here to help each other. And I just did a podcast for somebody else earlier, and my whole thing was there's abundance in life. There's enough for all of us to go around and succeed and to be successful. I think we can all help each other if we all figure it out.
Oh, yeah, no, the abundance mindset is so important because, the opposite is scarcity,
Yeah.
right? And if people are always operating on, I need to protect mine, like, there really is enough for all, and I do believe that. My mindset has changed a lot since being in public office.
Yeah, and now you're the scrutiny of the people, right? I'm sure when you've been running, every time they look for some kind of, like, chink in your armor, like no matter what,
Yeah.
they're always looking for
I
something.
do feel super fortunate though to represent the West Side.
Mm.
Shout out, because I do feel like the community and myself really do resonate. I feel like who I am is who the average person is in my district, so it feels good, to be honest.
I love Waianae. So actually, that's where most of our projects do. We've been rehabbing, developing homes for over 10 years now. And early on, I started in Waianae when everybody else, agents included, would say, "What are you doing in Waianae and fixing these houses? Like, why do Waianae?" And I recognized early on that Waianae was a great market. There were affordable homes. Like, there was a ton of abandoned and crackhead homes where you can easily come in and bring these homes back to the community and sell them right back to the community. And a lot of our homes are sold actually. Even before we hit the market, we'll sell it to local people because they're seeing development, they're seeing these houses come back to life,
Well, and I would say that there are people in the community that reach out to me with that issue because a home is in their family, and they don't necessarily live there, but then the home becomes a place where people are squatting in it.
Yeah.
It becomes a place of, vandalism, and they ask, like, what do we do? Like, we don't want to lose our home.
Yes.
Our family property, so a lot of people are interested in finding out who can help them rehab their property so that they can keep it in their family.
I'm not talking about these normal type of homes. I'm talking about the really, really bad ones, the ones that no one wants to touch. And,
it gets difficult. Do you do any homestead homes?
I haven't yet. I've seen them, but they're hard in the sense I'm not Hawaiian. I'm born and raised, but I'm not Hawaiian. So you gotta, of course, show you 50%.
Yeah,
and
but
then how could you
do
sell
you
them?
rehab a home though? Like, so say for example you have a homesteader, and they want to keep the home in their property. Like, have you ever rehabbed a?
I just will turn them onto a contractor or something.
I see.
I have
I
a
see.
construction company that I partner with, and here's our contracting team, and they can help you through the process. It's hard because those houses you can't just sell them. You only can sell
No,
them
it's
to-
true because they got to go back on the list and.
You can't just sell them. They have to qualify and everything, so they're not easy to deal with sometimes. But the problem now of permitting, I've been doing this for years, and obviously it used to be a lot easier to get permits, and it's progressed. As I was sharing earlier, back in the day, my dad would just go in and get a permit, and it was like no problem. Now it's progressed, and I feel like the whole monster home and that whole thing, and now the Fed stepping in just really blew it up down there, and it just created this mess that I don't think intentionally anyone tried to make. And now we're at that turning point where we're trying to figure out this permitting issue that's really, we were talking yesterday, it's just delaying so much. Contractors, electricians, plumbers, there's cleaners, there's real estate agents, escrow agents, there's a ton of Home Depot and all the labor at Home Depot where we're buying the material. So there's a ton of money that we dump into these projects that go back into our community. We do projects over $1 million in some rehabs, and that's $1 million that's going back into our economy, and that just I think is really beneficial to Hawaii. And with the big construction companies, the ones huge. They're shut down from doing even work, and that's a ton of jobs they're employing, and that's a ton of money that comes back into our economy. And I feel like I don't know if the DPP realizes that or not, or to say, I know you do, but a lot of people don't realize that's a lot of money that comes into our state. I think our actually number one income is actually real estate. It's not tourism. Real estate is where a lot of our state money makes from all the taxes and all the different, you sell a house, you have to pay all these conveyance taxes and so forth, and property taxes. So I think our number one source is actually real estate, where a lot of people think it's tourism. But so let's dive into the permitting process. We talked yesterday, so I feel it's very kind of fresh. What do you think some of the resources that the DPP could possibly take advantage of and change? Kind of wanted to touch on the resources down there. I feel like there's mismanaged resources, or they could possibly make some changes. I know it's hard for you to speak for them, but what do you think?
Well, in my perspective, a resource that's out there, especially for solar permitting, is Solar App Plus. It is a federally paid for app that's updated both in your state and on the federal energy code level. So the main thing that's happening at DPP, right, is application, code review, issuance of permit. So in the event that the majority of the permits that are in the pipeline that have not been issued are residential permits, and even a smaller subset of those residential permits, the majority are solar permits, then really what we need to do is take as many people out of the pipeline that can, and if this app can actually streamline this process where someone can do it from there, even issue their own permit, then that's a way forward. So I will share though that in our meetings with DPP that they still do not have, wait for it, an electronic payment processor.
Yes.
So they are trying to get that. I don't know what the update is on when they'll be installing it, but really for the app to work, you have to have an electronic payment processor plugin because you pay for the permit on the app as well. Because it's supposed to be a one-stop shop to take care of everything so that you're not
It
waiting.
wouldn't go to a reviewer, a person.
No.
Right? You just go straight to that app.
And the point was because not only in our state, but nationwide, they have these green energy goals, knowing that all these people want solar on their homes. This is the way that they suggested that we expedite it. So I do think that that's a resource available. DPP.
You said it was like something percentage was solar, right?
Oh, 60%. 60% of all the
solar.
residential
That's huge.
stuck permits are solar.
8,000
Yeah.
backed up permits and 60%. That's huge. That's
Yeah.
a huge amount.
And there are some that are automatically approved, but again, what about condos? What about when you're not the owner of the whole building that you're putting it on? So there's all these nuances to solar permitting. What about if you're just upgrading a system or you have a system? So I also did pass, or we introduced Bill 56, which hopefully if it passes tomorrow, last vote, we added more things to the exemption list. So there's this huge list of exemptions, meaning that this doesn't need a permit, right? So another thought I had in last year's town hall was how many people can we get out of the line?
Yeah, there's 8,000 people, guys, backed up right now.
Maybe more.
And
We're not sure the
trying
most
to
recent.
Pull out some of those easy ones. We're all in a line if you're doing a ground up build to fixing your kitchen.
The guy who's doing a fence is in the same line as a guy doing a commercial development.
Yes,
So
yes. Yeah,
think
not
about
commercial
like
too.
Disneyland, right?
Yeah.
You go to Disneyland, you get in line, and the first thing you ask is like, what line is this to? Is this the fast pass line?
Yeah.
Is this like? So most people who are in the line, they want to know who else is in the line. What number am I in the line? How many days do I have to wait? So I do think Solar App Plus is a resource. I do think that Bill 56 and expanding the exemptions will be a good resource for them. I did also put forward a resolution to hire relief workers, which I can't pass that in law, but I do think that having more bodies in there is necessary, but not next year or the year after.
Let's talk about hiring relief workers. Down there, the morale is kind of low, I would say, with just the media and the backlash to all the workers down there. Is there a way we can almost change I don't know, what kind of, again, resources could the DPP use to almost, bring the morale up? These people are not, wanting to work and do good if they're getting, yelled at all the time. So,
well, I don't know if they're getting yelled at, but I do know that Dawn, who the director is, I do think that it is in her interest, and she has expressed to me the need to have this relief, this help. And it's not a new idea. During COVID, they had to hire relief workers to help with unemployment. There was a time when the Land Bureau of Conveyances at the state also had to hire relief workers because they were calling people in on Saturday and Sunday to clear up backlog, and people didn't want to work anymore. So in the event that these individuals who have only so many hours in a day are still going to have more and more permits piled on every day. Because last year, we got the 8,000 number. Now, that doesn't preclude from now until last year how many new applications have come in. So I think that it's super necessary for us to talk about the relief workers and how that could immediately help the situation.
I think almost we need to dive in more to it. Because, I own my own private company here, and so we have a culture, we have an environment where we want each other to excel, and that culture creates good workers and so forth. Almost sometimes as state workers, they don't develop that culture. They're just a state workers. It's a little different kind of, it's not a private company. So almost if we can even bring in like a business consultant to help them just in general to create a better work environment for these employees or these even relief workers to excel and do better and want to do better. And I would say they're probably not even working at their fullest potential, some of them, if they're getting not in a a comfortable environment. When you're in an environment, you really like what you're doing, you love the people around you. I just heard yesterday, my girl Lion over here, her mom works there for a long time, and she was saying back in the day they would do, Christmas parties, and they would have a Halloween costume contest, and she just loved going to work. And after where we're at today, it's a little different environment today, where it's not that the morale, the funness of it all.
Well, and I'm sure it doesn't help because it's in the news a lot.
Yes.
It doesn't help to be like, oh yeah, I work for that place that everyone's mad about.
Yeah.
I have seen on the state side there is a Department of Information Technology, and they did hire a very young deputy under former Governor David Ige. I actually know him personally, and the way that he did it obviously was a lot of that, which was how do you build morale, because you can focus all day on productivity, but if you focus on morale, your appreciation of work, that you have a friend there, that you enjoy being there, boom, productivity goes up, right? So there is an indirect way that you can kind of get at that. And I do think that would...
Because they may not have money to bring in more workers, so it might be another... If they're...
I don't think they don't have money to bring in more workers. So this is the thing, though, is like, no. There is infinite money in government, okay? So most people are like, oh, there's no money. No, there's always money. The question is whether or not you're a priority, okay? So the way that we make our budget from year to year, there's money for everything. But what's the priority? Who gets to be the priority, and who gets to call out what the priority is? So I think that in the event that if this was a priority for the administration, they'd find the money. There'd be money. I think that with the amount of payments for permits, I mean, gosh, some of these permits can get up into the tens of thousands. You're paying for a SAI, a special assignment inspection. You're paying thousands of dollars, right?
I have a $50,000 quote right now.
Yeah. So I'm not saying that solely based on the fees these guys are making a lot. I'm just saying that there is some income, right, coming in for what they do. We do have money set aside, and I don't think there's ever been a day when I've been at council where the council members haven't wanted to set, more money aside for this department. But see, the process of hiring somebody in the city is so grueling. This is like a 6-month to 1 year process, which doesn't make any sense because we have 3,000 vacancies, right? So by the time they contact you back and they say, hey, you're a candidate we want to hire, boom, that person got a job already.
And then they take 6 months and then you're to train them up.
Right. So I think for me, it wasn't that there's money or not money. It's that the time to hire people and to basically ramp up a pipeline of new employees, it needs a good running start, like a good 1 to 3 years, run. And in the event that we can't do that right away, that's why relief workers are a more immediate solution.
Because I think, like you're talking about, the working part of it is the solution. Your bills are great and all, but it takes a year and a half to do a bill. Like there's, it's not a, so it's almost like the quicker solution is something inside of that.
And work. I would add that not only passing the bill takes a while, but once the bill gets passed, how many people know? So I know Bill 56 well. I know what areas we're going to be allowing this, allowing that. How do we publicize then, hey, the law has changed in your favor? I don't know if you remember, a few years ago, they passed a law to actually have a, what was it? I think it's a notary to say that you don't have fines or liens on your property. And a lot of people complained, and so the law changed to now an attestation. So you don't have to go and, get it, whatever. And a lot of times the people who are applying for this are not the owners of the property. They're the contractor. They're the electrician. They're the architect. So they don't know if there's liens and other things on the property. They're just hired to do the work, and now they're asked to go get a permit. So we made that small law shift last year. But again, most people would have to look on the DPP website and say, okay, what's the current laws? So, there's also that little small learning curve.
So we kind of talked a lot about yesterday of the hang-ups of a lot of people, of course, is just the time frame and all that. And that's what we're talking about. How could we speed up the time frame to get a permit, and then how could we relieve some of the state workers to help them, I think, get the permit. I wonder, is there anything they could change in their processing? They keep on, I feel like, I don't know who's telling them, but they keep on adding more steps, thinking that's going to help. The bots. So they added a bot system where now the bots are going to scan your permits and look for your
look for the margins and the borders and the font size.
But does that really care if your house is built properly? I feel like it's kind of nominal.
Yeah, they did think the bot would help with the pre-screen, right? So they at DPP they have this whole pass through the pre-screen, go through the code review, which code review can only be done by humans because you're checking all of your water, fire, like all of those other things, and then you go to permit issuance. So they believe that on the front and back end they could automate. So supposedly they went to RFP out somebody to issue it, because there's a handful of people whose permits are approved but they haven't been issued, because that's another process, right? So Don talked about the bot in the beginning, hiring a company at the end to do the permit issuance. But again, we're still stuck with everyone's in code review. Back to my whole relief workers, like there's no resolving the code review if you don't have more like warm bodies. So, I mean, I guess to your point, added steps. I think the other thing that recently was announced was having all commercial projects go through e-plans. Whoa, e-plans and Posse. It's so difficult.
Two different software. So they have e-plans and they have Posse. And they often are on their computers, they're looking, they'll have to open this software, and they don't correlate well with each other.
And a lot of people enjoyed not using e-plans because in e-plans you have to actually give the person the task. So if he sends me something and says, oh, here's my application, then if I work for DPP, I go, please fix these things. Then I give the task back to him, and then he says, oh, okay, I'll fix these things. Then when he gives it back to DPP, now the person here could be someone else. And then they're like, oh, these are other things that you have to fix. And then maybe from there, this person gives it to Board of Water Supply Review. And so this whole like having other people hold tasks, back in the day, it was like drop off a plan, they finish it, they put in the next person's box. When it gets to your box, then you put, and sometimes physically seeing that, oh, I got to get to that.
Yeah. The stack.
Yeah, because you don't see it on the e-plans like, oh, shoot, I'm responsible for the task, so I got to pass it over. Literally, a lot of the third-party reviewers call because they're like, I'm just waiting to get the task back.
Yes.
I'm asking DPP to please give it back to me so I can start working on my edits. And I think in the event that, maybe over-electronicizing things has now been a hindrance, we got to take a step back and be like, is this the platform we should be using?
Well, the big thing has been screwing me up. We have two on our final plans. They've been with a residential reviewer, the final checker, basically, and it's been back and forth with her 4 times, where she'll give us a set of comments, and we'll take care of those comments, and then she'll send it back with a new set of comments. It's all the same woman, and it's almost like, why can't you just see it the first time?
So many people have told me that. They're like, every time I submit it, they come with new things. Like, it should be like if you don't get it one time, then there shouldn't be a second and a third and a fourth edit,
And these takes months for these processes to go back and forth. And I was talking to another buddy the other day, and what do you think about this? So a lot of the Republican states, they are very lenient to get permits. They're very easy. The Atlantas, Tennessees, all these states down there in the South, and they allow a lot of development, a lot of homes being built. It's bringing a lot of people into their communities, and I know in Hawaii we don't want people here. We love tourism, but we always have that kind of underlining vibe of like, so I think it's a catch-22 sometimes, because the solution to lower housing pricing is more houses, and supply and demand. So that's a hard one to think about.
I guess I'm thinking of a few things. The first thing I'm thinking of is there's so many of us that would love to see our own family members come home.
Yes.
So I gotta disagree that I don't think people want other people here. I think we all want our family back.
Yes.
We want all of our classmates back. We want like Hawaii to be like the people that we grew up with who are now all gone. So I think that everyone's in favor of that. I also think that there's this differentiation between like commercial and luxury permitting and just like local house permitting, right? And I think that's where a lot of people have to differentiate, especially in DPP, most of what I'm doing, like take Bill 56 for example, that's like DIY stuff. It's just like
your house is nice.
Try to fix your counters. Now you can do your tile without needing up. Yeah, you can get a fence up. So if we're doing things that are helping residential people be able to keep their cost of living down, keep their house livable, be able to pass on their home to a child, we should all be in favor of that. And I think when we talk about permitting, we got to be specific when we speak on that. It's like if I'm talking about helping local people stay here, we got to all be for that. And if we're talking about making the local housing market more affordable, we got to all be for that. So, I sat down with a development group just 2 weeks ago in my community. They got this big old acreage of land in, I won't say where, it's on the west side. Yeah, and they're like, oh, what should we do here? Now,
I know what you mean, yeah.
the question is not what should we do here. The first thing is, what is the land zoned? Because the land is zoned Ag 2. You can only do so much things on Ag 2. Houses per acre, large building dimensions allowed. So when they had this meeting in the community, I was like, man, you guys really selling a pipe dream out here, asking people, oh, what do you want here? That's not even true. Secondly is, what infrastructure do you have there? Have you done a topographical study? Do you have any wastewater systems there? Is there any, because all of that infrastructure that you have to put in, that is what's costly. In fact, we should have a infrastructure revolving fund in the city and the state, because most of the projects that we need to get going, the infrastructure is most difficult to pay for.
Yeah,
the wastewater hookup, 80 grand wastewater hookup, like cesspool stuff. So all I'm trying to say is that I do think that in reality, when we're talking about, building our communities, really got to be realistic, because I do think that for a wise reason, there are different types of uses of land in different areas. So yeah, nobody wants to see Makaha with like kabillion homes inside there.
That's what you're talking about.
Right. But at the end of the day, when you're talking to people about development, like, who are you talking to? Because that also bothered me about this group, because they were having the meeting not in the area. Yeah, so I was like, how are you going to have this conversation without the people who are immediately right there, right?
That's
we want to be good neighbors.
Area, actually, because there's those $1 million homes back in that valley.
True.
It's surprising.
Mauna Olu,
It's beautiful. I mean,
we got some big social media stars that live up there as well from Eva. But I think the idea here, though, is that there's a right way to go about doing community development. Sit down with the people in the community, understand the needs. Like, even in that area, there's another Heiau. I even asked them, like, do you know who runs Kaneaki? Have you talked to these people? And it's not that my way is the only way. It's just that I think understanding your area, your situation, it lends to a much more amiable community conversation. Because just the way they were rolling it out, I was like, oh, you guys are going to get protested for sure.
Because they're trying to do a ton of homes, a ton of development. They're trying to do huge. But what I'm referring to is just Waianae in general. There's a ton of houses that are just abandoned and just sitting
Lots.
You drive it, any block you're on, you'll just see, not even 1, 2, you'll see 3, 4. And if not, they're just on the brink of, of deterioration. And that's what we're trying to bring back, those type of homes, so they can be passed down to generations, or you can sell your home and buy a nicer home, or whatever it may be. There's a ton of houses that could be available for people out there, and it's sad that they can't do nothing. We can't do nothing about it, and people don't know what to do about it, because they hear the permitting trouble and they hear the the drama of it all. They don't want to tackle it.
Yeah.
I know a bunch of even people like us that are just shying away from doing projects because they don't want to deal with the DPP. They don't want to deal with waiting, year to 2 years before you can do anything.
It's quite the commitment. I think anyone going into housing, like, I wish them luck, but it's quite the commitment to be in that industry, but then also to know the hill you got to climb to just get through the starting step. Because I would say DPP is like the starting step.
Yeah, it's a starting. I'm actually applying now before I even buy the property to maybe squeeze a month ahead.
Should I apply now for a permit I need in 12 years? Yeah, like, I'm going to imagine up what permit I might need, go apply for it. Yeah, it's difficult, and so that's, I just feel like in a state that's already really difficult to live in, and the word is live in, then the way that you live, whether it's owning a house or building a house, that needs to be reasonable, because we want people to live here.
And you're talking about that. I mean, just the construction costs, the cost of materials is so great.
Interest rates.
Yeah, and so now, and you're just now having to deal with this whole permitting job. It's just like one more, kink in the armor of, a homeowner that has to deal with that to possibly take care of his house, But is there anything you think the mayor can do, or even some of those highest ups? I mean, they have a lot of pull, right? I mean, do they have enough pull to say, hey, do that, or hey, do this, without going the whole bill way where it takes 2 years to get a bill?
I say yes and no. I say yes, the mayor has a lot of pull because yes, he runs the departments. Yes, he can say, hey, I need this done. Hey, don't forget to do that. I would say no in the sense that some of the laws are written to disadvantage homeowners. And so as policymakers, it is our job to fix laws that really are punitive or laws that are outdated. That's something that the mayor and them can't do. So I do think everyone plays a part.
But he can nudge DPP for whatever, hey, I don't like this process or so. Or,
yeah.
Because they do throw it back. I speak to DPP Dawn, and they always throw it back to the mayor.
Do they really?
Yeah, I have emails from her that, it's the mayor's.
Well, I would say money allocation, so the releasing of budget funds is the mayor's purview, so that's correct if you're talking to Don about that. I would say that in many meetings that I've sat down with him and Don and the department, that he's been very open to learning. So to be honest, Dawn has been kind of in this for many, many years. She knows the lingo, she knows the problems, she knows the system needs to be fixed. I would say for the mayor, it's kind of a learning curve. Some of the words that we brought up in the meeting are new to him.
You know your stuff. Do you got to go teach the mayor?
Well, I mean, I would say that I'm even naive in some ways because I didn't know any of those terms. So prior to me having the town hall last year with Dean Uchida, the former director, I would say I didn't know half of what anybody was talking about, but I very, very much am a problem solver. And so once I can see the problem, I'm usually good at researching everything around it and then figuring out what parts
How'd you figure it out? Because I have 9 permits. I've probably done about 50, so I learned it from just trial and error, struggling, so that's how I learned it.
I know, I haven't even ever pulled a permit in my life. I'm like, how do I know what posse is? How do I know what E-plans
I'm
is?
curious how you know what's going on now, because I struggle.
But there's also, there was a 2017 audit. So a lot of what I use when I do my job is to read historical documents because many people prior to me had probably come against this problem, tried to solve it. So if you read the 2017 DPP audit, a lot of it explains this. They even have a chart showing how many different people have to touch a permit and how problematic that is. So I didn't think everything I was saying was totally new, but I do think learning all of the different divisions, who does what, where you can look up an NOV, where you can look up an inspector. So I'm getting a little bit better at it, but all of the guys who I deal with, they're like, you need to pull a permit so you know what we go through. I was like, maybe I should so that I can be like, this is so hard.
You better go do your fence around
your house. I got to go pull a permit for a fence or something.
That's funny. I mean, that's how I learned early on because I was paying people to do my permits. I was like, I better go do one myself and know the struggle. So when I'm talking to him, I'm like, I know where you're at there.
Yeah.
Kind of do it yourself. I'm actually trying everything, right? I have different reviewers and trying everything, different people to run for me. I have a third party, so everything. And
that's so hard when it gets all entangled like that, and you're like, where is the permit at? Oh, it's with such and such in this division, and yeah.
But I almost feel like if there's some way we can get down into DPP working with Don, or you guys can work with Don in some of their resources or systems they have down there and almost clean it up. I don't know if the mayor can impose that somehow. Well,
his purview really, and he said this publicly, is that he really doesn't want to be a micromanager. He wants to give all the department heads autonomy. Right. There's a fine line, right? Because even me as a leader, I don't like to micromanage the people that I lead, but you want them to make their decisions autonomously. You want to empower them with resources. But in the event that something is so backlogged and something needs to be I would imagine that if I was the mayor, I would sit in DPP and be like, I'm working here today. I'm going to work here all week. I want to see what's going on in here.
I get it for running smoothly and everything's working great.
Right. Then autonomy, independence.
But there's something not working right now. Maybe he's got to.
I guess, as a leader, you got to determine whether or not you're going to stay above the fray and let your leadership kind of do their thing, or whether you're going to kind of get your hands up in it and be like, I'm going to put my boots on and get out there.
He's got the 100 other things he's doing too.
Yeah. And even when I have meetings with the mayor, who he's always very, very mindful of me, he always makes time for me, I would say that I have to be mindful that I can bring up 1 or 2 things because he has so many other things. I just want him to remember the 1 or 2 things that I'm bringing up, right? I need a park at Kapuni Playground, and then I'll bring a picture. This is Kapuni Park. Don't forget in Waianae.
The visual.
This is the road to get there.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, because I get it. Because even when constituents talk to me, I got to be like, okay, wait, hold on. What street are we talking about?
Where's Kapuni Playground?
Kapuni Park is in the Homestead in Waianae.
Oh, okay.
So they really want a community center and a playground, and I've tried to kind of put it on the front, burner for the...
They should put a park right in front of you by that pier where the kids jump off. They should put a park over there. Make that place nice.
What area?
Right in front of you in Sea Country, straight up.
A pier? Oh.
Yeah, that little dock.
So that one actually is protected by DLNR because it's a monk seal habitation on the left side.
Park needs some.
You're talking Nanikai.
Yeah.
He's talking across 76.
Yeah, 76. Yeah.
I just had a long conversation with a constituent whose house is right next to that park, and they're like, "What's going on?"
Yeah, there's a beautiful house.
Yeah,
Yes.
But he said that house has been in his family for generations, and he's like, I just can't handle what's going on in this park next to us. So yeah, there's a lot of issues, but hey, we signed up for this. We know that it's tough work. So
yeah. I think Waianae is great, and I think it's beautiful, and I actually think Waianae will be like North Shore one day, where it's just beautiful, nice community, and I don't mean praise North Shore, but I mean,
we would like the West Side to just be the West Side, so we don't want to be anything else.
I just think it's a beautiful community out there, white sandy beaches, and crisp water. The water's clean, and just needs a little bit of loving, of course. And a little bit of relief from permits to allow. Although Waianae is a little easier sometimes to do work. Sometimes I feel
because it's way out there.
Yeah. It's almost a little easier sometimes, and the people are more happy most of the times that we're doing work on houses out there because I think they appreciate the homes getting better.
I will tell you that my favorite thing about representing the West Side is that everybody's just straight up. Yeah. So they're not going to be passive aggressive with you. They'll tell you to your face what they think, which is so helpful in life, because let's just be straight talkers, just this is it, this is not.
The people of the old school that have been here for a long time, they're really appreciative of cleaning up some of these. We're cleaning up a crack at home right now, and they're really appreciative.
That's so good. I'll give you a bunch of addresses before I leave next.
I'll take them. I love the projects. But permitting is the hard part of it all. So, moving forward, what is our future outcome of all this? What do you see this going? What do you see? It's all up in the air right now.
Well, I would say 3 things on the immediate horizon. The passage of Bill 56, calling, hopefully I get to call a good handful of people and be like, you don't need a permit anymore. Poof, poof, poof. Fireworks. I think immediately on the horizon, electronic payment processor. I do think that could happen this year. I think immediately on the horizon would be that implementation of Solar App Plus. So if we can just get those 3 things.
That group.
Yeah.
And then the more workers down there. Yeah.
I don't know how long that will take because I feel like I'm the only person that really wants it. I feel like you got to have political will to get some of this crap done.
To get more workers down there. Yeah.
Well, because it's this thing.
If we can't do more workers, what about revamping their without?
I don't think that will happen ever. Not because I don't want it to.
Yeah.
But I think
Or even a consultant, just paying a consultant.
Oh, I don't know.
Help them out.
I totally agree with you. I'm just trying to tell you what's realistic.
Business consultant.
Because I think when you're talking about
running a business.
Civil service, you got to remember we're talking HGEA. We're talking about people that they want to make sure the workers are protected. They have good intentions, really.
Yes,
so. But I would say when I talk with HGA about relief workers, they were totally for this. So Randy Pereira was like, yes, we need to fix this. I'm waiting on a permit myself. I'm like, see, the head of HGA wants these permits fixed. So I want to say that, the relief workers could be something this year, but I also think that Dawn and the department are pushing towards a new system and no more e-plans, no more posse. That's why I was confused that they're making all the commercial guys go into e-plans because I was like, I thought we're doing away with that. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like that's going to make it better. But, I feel like that's going to make it worse before it gets better.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I was question mark about that.
Yeah, how did they decide to do the bots and now bringing who makes these
And I don't know if they're maybe
decisions.
streamlining everything because they're ready to switch over. I should call her and ask her that.
Yeah.
Because maybe it's that everyone gets into the same process so that we can just, boom, move e-plans, get into something that's more, streamlined.
Why not mimic a great state that has a great system?
Oh, we've given them examples of states where they have software that works very well, that is not so laborious to work through. And that's not even just for the applicants. I would say it's hard for DPP to work through e-plans too. We get something that works for both ends,
Yeah. Make it more efficient for you and the worker down there to do the work. I honestly go down there once a week, and I get different answers from the clerks all the time where my permit's at, and because she can't even tell sometimes.
I know.
She just can't tell the task, who's got what.
It's hard to tell where you're at in all of it, you know.
Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking the solution is more resources down there, really, for them to get managed better. Is the ultimate. Do you see a change coming? I think with your bill will help.
It'll help a bit.
I like the idea of pulling the solar
Yeah.
out, because that's the huge clog.
It's tough because last year June is when I had my town hall, and we're about to be 1 year from last year, right? So from 1 year ago till today, what's happened? Well, the bot was born.
Now.
I want to say that's it. But no, we got a new director. I take it back. So new director.
And Dawn has been there for 6 months now, I think.
Bot was born.
Can you oppose on Dawn at all? Do you have any? Because it sounds like you know yourself more than Bear.
Oh my gosh, no. No, Dawn is so smart. Like, I
I don't mean more than Dawn, but can you propose some of the solutions that you're...
I have proposed it, and I do think that it's slowly coming together. And I feel for Dawn because it's just like, wading through mud trying to get so many different things done because she's handling like notice of violations, like law changes. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you knew that last year they had proposed a whole land use ordinance change called Bill 10.
Mm-hmm. Never heard of that one.
It was 239 pages. And like on top of all the work that Dawn has to do, they wanted her to come to every single hearing and say what she thought about the 239 pages. What's the department's stance? Like, we got to be mindful that the person that has the largest task, we can't give them more work. Oh, by the way, we're doing this bill. So luckily 2 weeks ago, they actually put a hold on Bill 10 until next year. But I'm like, this poor lady hasn't had time to breathe because the legislature, us, the council members are constantly like, do this, do that. So all the bills I propose, I work with her on it. So I don't go like in my corner, work on it and go, surprise, Dawn, I think this thing should happen. Like, I get on the phone with her because I'm like, yo, I just want to see you succeed. So does this bill make it easier for your department?
Yeah.
And then she'll tell me, yes, this, fix that, do this. Because I'm like, when this comes out, I'm not implementing it. You are. So is this clear? Am I being clear with what I'm asking? Is this helpful? So I do think that everybody's goal should be like, how do we help and not hinder the department and what they're doing?
Do you feel like, I think everyone's relying, down there they're relying on Dawn. Every time I go down there, anyone I talk to, Perry, for example, even, who runs the plant side.
I do know Perry.
Yeah, he's always referring to Dawn, or he's always hiding out, backing out sometimes.
I would say that's a good and bad thing, right? Yeah. So as a leader, like, so if everyone calls my office and every single time you call my office, like, oh, sorry, I got to talk to the council member. I'm sure people will be like, do you know anything though?
Yeah,
like,
I feel like
can you help me? Because
like,
I've been waiting for the council member to call me, and I'll be honest, like, I can't return everybody's calls, right? So like, I have to empower my staff to be able to answer those questions, right? So I think Dawn is like in between, right? So she's very, very new, like meaning
and
like
no
the
one
six.
else wants to step up and.
Well, and so she's trying to take the fall for a lot of the, problems that the department's having. But I think as she comes into her first year, because she's almost into like being done with 1 year, she's gonna have to kind of let the reins go a little bit. I think it's important though that in this very beginning, so that things don't go awry, that she kind of just like take accountability, see what she can fix, give the instructions. But I do think that could lead to burnout, because eventually you're gonna have to like kind of like let some of that.
Taking all these big problems.
She's a young mom. She has young kids too. Just gotta throw it out there. I respect her a lot. So.
She's really sweet, actually.
Yeah, I respect her a lot.
But let's we can wrap up. We have one question that we have from Lanai. How can you generate public help in the system?
I do give calls to action. So in the legislative process, we have public hearings. And in the calls to action, I ask people to testify. I didn't get a lot of people testifying the last couple times we had Bill 56. And I did have one guy come in the last hearing, and he actually suggested a bunch of changes, which is tough because we're on the 11th hour here. The bill's about to pass. So we kind of went through the whole, like, hey, if you have some suggestions, add them now. I do think that having people come to just weigh in and say, hey, this helps me in this way. Hey, this helps me in this way. Like, that would be great. So
the general just coming in and sharing your guys' voice is huge, I think, because she has I think this is going to air after her thing tomorrow at
Mm-hmm.
Wednesday, so
Mm-hmm.
you guys may have missed out, but just come in and share your voice, share your concerns. It does go a long way, as you're saying. I sometimes don't feel like that, but it does.
Yeah,
resonate.
I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you. People are like, no one listens, and
Yeah,
but I do think we still gotta put our voice out there.
So kind of wrap it up. So what is next for you? Do you have any community events coming up, or are you going to run for governor again? What's
Whoa!
next? I'm curious.
No big announcements on the podcast. Just kidding.
No. You got
well,
ideas. At least.
Yeah, I mean, so I do have an event coming up that we're helping with. And now I'm announcing. No, like I do think that, you know, we have a rental assistance event coming up in Nanakuli on the 19th, and that's for people who really are struggling and might need some rental assistance. So the city put out.
Oh, let me come to that. I have Section 8. I'm a huge fan for that.
Okay, so
and,
it's
there's so many other programs.
June 19th, I believe, 10 to 4, Nanakuli Library. So I'll text you the flyer.
There's Catholic charities that help people. Like,
Yeah.
I give all my renters, here's all the programs, go take advantage
Yeah.
of it. Like, people, landlords want you
Well,
to
and-
pay rent.
And for clarity, you know, we do want people to get jobs and to work, but if you need that, you know, that help, that holdover, because we have had a lot of new homeless come to our beaches because they're getting evicted because they're not able to pay rent. So that's one coming up. I am doing my next cleanup on August 26th. I do 4 cleanups a year. I love for people to get involved in those things. We are, you know, having town halls. If you're a nonprofit, we have a GIA town hall, which is a grant and aid. So you can follow me at Andria Tupola on Instagram. I really don't go on any other social media platform because I can barely handle one. I used to like run all these different Facebook groups and this, and it's just, it's so draining.
It's a lot.
I want to get the message out, but I also have a very tiny team that helps me. Powerful, but small. Yeah, so I don't want to, like, you know, spread ourselves too thin.
Yeah.
And you can always call my office, 768-5001, if you need any assistance.
Nice. And what was your Instagram again?
Just my name, Andria Tupola.
Okay. Well, yeah, thank you guys so much. And please follow and like and subscribe and ask questions, guys. The biggest thing I say out there is just ask questions. There's no wrong question to ask. If you guys have concerns, you know, real estate questions, just ask questions, because we're here to help and we're here to learn. And there's enough abundance for all of us to succeed in life, and really want everyone to do well in life. So thank you guys so much, and thank you for having
Yes, thank you for
on
having
the
me.
show and talking with me. So thank you guys. Aloha.